Okay, so this is the part two now. So let's proceed with other philosophers' notion about vanity. Right. So next we have French philosopher Jean-Jacques Derrida. Uh, his idea about human tendencies, human nature, would be seen in dualistic framework. He conceptualized amor de soi, right? Amor de soi, and amor de proper. Amor de proper. So what is amor de soi? Amor de soi is basically humans' honest self-interest for basic well-being. For example, for health, for food, for shelter. So this is basically part of the realm of morality. There is no problem with this, uh, because it's an honest self-interest. So you love yourself because you just want to take care of yourself so that you will survive in this world. But then the second framework, second component in the framework rather, is amor de proper. Amor de proper is actually seen in a comparative and relational aspect of the framework. It's comparative and relational because it's a human tendency to always decide in doing something with reference to other people. So that is what makes it a bit dangerous because some people, they would always think of others when they decide, right? So in fact, uh, but in Rousseau, no, here, Montaigne cautioned us, actually Montaigne, another philosopher, Montaigne cautioned us that this mentality will do us more harm than good. So Montaigne would caution us, right? Because that is where at times we would have problems, whenever we decide because we're thinking of what others might say, right? Now, but then in this discussion, Rousseau was leading to the point, according to Blackburn, was leading to the point that amor de proper can raise gender issue, right? Now, since you want to become beautiful, you want to pamper yourself. So again, Blackburn went back, digressed to his stimulus. Remember L'Oreal? So he was thinking that, okay, so it could also be a question of culture rather than nature. Because we're talking about human nature, human tendencies. But then, because of this amor de proper component in the framework, Blackburn somehow thought that, okay, so L'Oreal tagline could be misconstrued as something limited to gender sensitivity and not to be misconstrued as a case of human nature. So these are some of the, the layers that we're looking at whenever we're talking about maybe this whole thing about vanity mostly could be could be a case of gender because perhaps women are more vain, but then there are, to our current state now, current scenario now, even men can be vain, correct? For example, in Metro Manila, talking about beauty, aesthetics, right? So I think that this transcends this issue about vanity is not only limited to gender sensitivity. I think this would as well transcend to other to human nature. But then these are some of the things that just came into the discussion points of Blackburn. But then at the end of the book, I was trying to see what was his stance. So was he telling us that it's okay to be vain? to have that self-love, or vanity is actually immoral. I was waiting for him to to really specify what stance he was taking. But as expected, as predicted, I was predicting that somehow he won't really assert one stand. So at the end, somehow he took a wise uh, strategy. No? He took a somewhat a neutral tone in saying that really we cannot really say absolutely that it is just okay for an individual to be vain. I was also thinking that's wise because remember how many moralists wouldn't read this book if he will take a strong stance. No, I think as I was saying, this author has a way of pushing his arguments, but in a very relaxed tone. He is cool, relaxed type of writer, where he knows how to push forward his arguments. But in fact, if I were a moralist, for example, coming from Stoicism's philosophy, I wouldn't really be angry. I wouldn't really be, the effect wouldn't really be that strong to me because his language was a bit tentative, although he cautioned the reader. What are the things that he included as part of his wanting to caution the reader? So he just cautions us from over self esteem or self love. There's a thing as over self esteem, right? And that over self esteem would lead us to somehow have a great effect. No? For example, I'll give you one. Over self esteem will lead to narcissistic complex. No? As we know, narcissistic complex would have that, the individual would have that egoistic, egoistic tendencies that he is always right in his decision making. Now, if you'd ask me whether what stance I'll take, whether vanity is okay or not, I would like to answer this by saying that it depends on the critical mass of the consequences of one's decision. For example, if the consequences would hurt, would involve, would affect uh, thousands of people who would die from that bad decision coming from a narcissistic person, then that we need to reflect, that we need to rethink. Because, okay, you might say that self-esteem is positive thinking, right? Self-esteem, but too much self-esteem, over self-esteem, can somehow lead us to have bad consequences, right? So it's also important that we need to rethink about people who have tendencies of over or high self-esteem. Remember, when they do the decision, when this type of people, like having narcissistic tendencies, too much love for their for their for their decision making, for example, like they don't rely on other people when they decide. They they take matters into their own hands. So that we need to rethink whether, for me, if that affects thousands of people, for example, innocent people, after his decision to go to war, for example. Now, well, if you're not affected, maybe you would simply say, okay, it's okay to have a leader like this. But if you have a relative or you yourself is actually a victim of such a decision, then you might want to reconsider or rethink of too much self-esteem. But if it is just a simple self-love, like going to the gym, or going to the gym, stay fit, or even undergoing enhancements in their body, spending money for their beauty, pampering, going to the spa, going to the gym to be beautiful, and at times leaving their boyfriends, for example, for their own beauty. That's not a problem. That's not a problem to me. So if you just want to stay happy, so long as you are not hurting people, it's okay. But well, those who are hurt are those who are envious. So if they are envious about your beauty, then that's up to them. But if the decision can affect critical mass, let's say thousands of people displaced, thousands of people are dying because of a bad decision, that we need to retake also. We need to be critical about the decision of these leaders who have tendencies of narcissism, right? Now, and at the end, Blackburn cautioned us about over self-love or over self-esteem. He also said that we do not have to be Iron Man. We do not have to be Iron Man. This term, Iron Man, is like you do not have to be a saint of someone who is able to equal, for example, to equal, for example, God's view. Because for example, for saints, they would even are willing to let go of their worldly passions and follow God's view. Blackburn is telling us you don't have to be like this. If I may paraphrase my own interpretation, the word Iron Man is like, I would say, someone who stays with the principles of morality, who would adhere to God's view of the world and follow all his precepts. Someone who would be righteous. What Blackburn is telling us, you don't have to be Iron Man, over righteous, or saint to be happy. Because happiness can be found actually not at the end point. Happiness can be found simple conversation, meeting other people, enjoying, having pleasures with other people, not minding about the common good, not minding about the common good of others. Just be happy on the process of meeting people, living at the moment, not thinking about whether you'll go to heaven or not. So I think that's basically Blackburn's take about vanity. He was telling us that we should not be over self-esteem. We should not have that over self-esteem, because that would also bring us to have inorderness in our life. That would lead us to perdition in terms of decision making. But we shouldn't also be trying to be Iron Man, over righteous as well, as we might fail to see life's simple pleasures, right? So I hope you liked the book review, and I'm also thankful that I was able to take out a copy with the print help from Adsu. So thank you for any requests or whatever book that you want me to review. Just comment. Just comment on the blog, appliedlinguistics.blogspot.com. So please just comment here in this link. There's a comment box. Just write your comments for whatever questions you have, or if you argue with me, just write here, and then just please request if you have any requests for book reviews. You want to know my thoughts. Okay, so this is 15 minutes now, maybe 2 minutes more, just to have a closing. Now, how do I find Blackburn? Blackburn is, I'm a fan. I'm a fan now, so I now love philosophy. So, of course, my course is PhD, Doctor of Philosophy in Applied Linguistics. but it is more on the linguistic side. This one is a hardcore philosophy about life, human existence, human nature, as to whether as to whether one assertion is true or not in terms of human existence, human nature. So this is healthy in terms of thinking and theorizing. So thank you for clicking this blog, and I hope you enjoyed it. Right? So mailing balinkos, whatever comments you have, just write your comments here. Bye. See you later.